Rockhoof attempts to find himself in modern Equestria.
Hold it! From that point on, we get the trying to fit into modern time sequence of events. Breaking bulk biceps back as a massage therapist, disclosing private information as a mail courier, and going overboard helping Zecora with supply needs. Out of all the pillars, Rockhoof is the only one who has yet to fit in. On the one hand, on the other, it sort of makes sense. Rockhoof has no one he can connect with. Flash Magnus and the others adapted fairly quickly, or they found their ancestors to reconcile with. Rockhoof is the last pony of his culture. He's a millennia-old relic lost in the modern world. His antics and mannerisms don't fit, is why Rainbow suggests he join the Navy alongside Admiral Seaspray.
Yeah, the episode is mostly a fish out of water story, and while it doesn't do anything particularly original with it, it's still executed well enough, with a few factors that make the dilemma more organic. As you mentioned, we have Rockhoof, a guy who lived in a bygone era of Equestria, spent an indeterminate amount of time trapped in limbo, and was suddenly transported into the modern world. In many TV shows or movies, this type of plotline normally just kills the pacing of the story with a character marveling at all the amazing technological inventions of the modern era and constantly asking questions that don't really progress the plot. In this case, Equestria really isn't that much technologically superior compared to Rockhoof's age, and his difficulty with acclimating to modern Equestria isn't from the lack of knowledge, but rather his upbringing. From flashbacks in the comics, we see that his home and culture were primarily a warrior-driven society, and him becoming a soldier of the Mighty Helm was pretty much his sole purpose. But now he lives in relatively more peaceful times. He doesn't know how to express himself like the average pony. Thus, the times we see him so animated are the muscle memories of his past training. We can understand and sympathize with his troubles. We've also seen many shows and movies with a slacker or lazy person who refuses to find a job despite everyone trying to help that character. What makes these sequences more tolerable is the fact that it is a very relatable dilemma. There are those struggling around the world who possess many skills wanted by various employers but aren't successful for one reason or another, which is very frustrating to any job seeker. Rockhoof is such an entertaining and nice guy, you want to see him succeed. He's out there legitimately willing to try everything, but his colossal body or blunt nature keep holding him back. And even though it's play for laughs, it still comes off as natural to his character, going back to his warrior culture and militaristic training. Although I must say, I'm pretty sure Zecora might need some medical attention.
But I figured why not bring you the whole thing?
And she's dead! The end!
What also makes this story relatable is Rockhoof learning of the rest of the Pillar's successes. His friends have all moved on to bigger or better things, whether it be their natural talents or expanding their horizons into new lines of work. Knowing this, it's only natural that Rockhoof feels insignificant to his friends, who he essentially places on a pedestal. There are times when we see our friends or family moving up in the world far beyond yourself, and we compare our self-worth to their successes. This creates a sense of self-loathing or even depression as we lose confidence in our own abilities. The straw that breaks the camel's back for him is when he joins the Hippogriff Navy. We've seen Rockhoof struggling to find new work, but despite his failures, of the few things he could always rely on, one of them was his vast knowledge of the world. Rockhoof attempts to navigate the ship through the fog based on the constellations above, but he ends up running it aground because the stars have shifted over time, and that was it. One of the only few things that he had left to count on has betrayed him, reinforcing even more how far gone his world has changed and how much of an outcast he is.
So, with the Navy being a failure, Rockhoof comes to the only logical conclusion.
I heard there's a statue spell that sends creatures into stone sleep. I want you to cast it. On me.
Objection! So, anyone want to talk about this? No? Okay, I will. Rockhoof wants to commit suicide. There's no way around this. Rockhoof wants to kill himself and is asking Twilight to assist. What the actual fuck is wrong with you? All of this is multiple layers of wrong. First of all, there's no way around the petrification thing not being an allegory for killing oneself. It's not uncommon people will resort to this when their chips are down and they feel like their life has no meaning. I want to give the writer a You Got Guts award for going for the dark but all too real topic. The problem is what happens afterwards. Twilight argues with Rockhoof that petrification is not an option, but he won't budge. Then this line is said.
You're not really gonna turn into stone, are you?
Only because it's temporary. As soon as I think of a new solution, we'll wake Rockhoof up.
Okay, in universe, the stone sleep spell is reversible. The allegory the episode is depicting is not. Suicide is a permanent solution. I've known people who have contemplated the act, some who went through it. You don't come back from an act like that. Thirdly, the museum line. He wants to be placed in a museum to be remembered as the hero he was, not the disappointment he became. And later, he's putting himself into poses to how he wants to be turned to stone. Rockhoof is glorifying the act. That is not an act worth revering. It's stuff like this, along with 13 reasons why we have an increased suicide rate among youth. And the biggest kicker out of all of this, he didn't need to say it! He could have said literally anything else, and the episode would have been fine. He's leaving Equestria forever because he doesn't belong in a place like this. He's going to go soul-searching and doesn't know where he'll end up. Or how about rescinding his Pillar of Harmony status? That would still get the shock second act stinger reaction Twilight gives without thinking about the act of offing oneself. Now, is the episode's moral saying if you can't find your purpose in life, then kill yourself? No, anyone who came away with that conclusion clearly has their head up their own ass and stopped watching after the second act stinger. However, the themes of mental health and finding one's true purpose were not executed competently. It treats the subject of suicide as a mild inconvenience and something that should be glorified. It's the same problem I have with Du Princess's Dream of Magic Sheep. It didn't have the cojones to commit to the narrative and half-asses its message. I honestly think the message of your life has meaning even if you don't know it is powerful and would have made the episode like this truly stand out in a positive way. It didn't need the suicide angle to get the message across.
Yeah, this is definitely a controversial element that surprised everyone. Introducing the allegory of suicide in a kid's show, let alone My Little Pony, was definitely a topic I thought I'd never see in this show. I do agree that Twilight's line about the temporary solution was mishandled, basically saying that she agrees to let the guy indulge in a desperate act just to buy some time. I went back and forth on this stoning element for the longest time, thinking whether or not this whole event was handled well. And as drastic as his decision is, it still feels like a realistic solution he would come to. At the beginning of the episode, he's this upbeat guy who liked to bring joy into others' lives with his stories. Yet throughout the episode, he keeps encountering multiple setbacks and he's slowly losing his confidence, seeing how successful his friends have become. Even his own knowledge of the world has betrayed him, so he no longer knows what's true anymore. Taking this information into account, you can chart his progression from a guy that found some level of joy living like the old ways to a guy who can't rely on himself anymore and has finally given up on life. Sometimes there won't always be a good answer to hard questions. Yes, MLP is a show built on morals to help others become better, but such as in life, there are times when there are no good or easy resolutions. Anyone has the potential to suddenly make decisions, with or without prior series of events prompting them. I myself have known friends who lived seemingly happy lives, and then out of nowhere, they made their final decision. Sometimes there's just no logical reason for others' actions. As for Du Princess's Dream of Magic Sheep, what Luna did to herself was actually believable to her character. There are some situations where you've done something wrong, something so horrible to the point that even if you are punished for your act, that weight of guilt will still weigh in on you, and you could never forgive yourself. Whether it be self-harm, drinking, drugs, or in Luna's case, the Tantabus, sometimes one can never truly forgive themselves and live the rest of their life punishing their misdeeds. Rockhoof tried his best to succeed in the world, and after the final straw, being turned to stone is the only way he'll be remembered for the good he did, and along with that, this is his penance for his failure. Is it the best solution? No. But those who continually encounter roadblocks see no solutions except for what is easy. Turning himself into stone is a simple solution to his problems, not caring for what his friends or others might think. So overall, while this is an extreme decision, it still does fit within the purviews and dark tones that the show has already shown in the past.
With all that said, the episode has one bright spot. Yona's class report on Rockhoof as a hero.
When Yona come to pony school, Yona not fit in. Pony ways strange, but Yona find friends. Yona meet Professor Rockhoof. Pony brave and strong as Yak, not afraid, hero. When Yona grow up, Yona want to be just like Professor Rockhoof.
Having someone say they want to live by your example does strike a chord. It goes all the way back to one of my oldest videos about aspiring traits in MLP. We look up to these heroes or characters to want to better ourselves. Even when these characters go through their own problems, we still admire the positive impact they leave and want to adapt the same positive influence. After Rockhoof listens to the report, he's given the motivation to finish the Ursa Major story. It results in the episode's conclusion that his stories need to be preserved and is given the title Equestria's Keeper of Tales. Now, when I first reacted to this, I thought they gave him a meaningless title, but I'll admit I was being a little facetious at the time. Culture and languages are being lost even today, and history should be safeguarded for the future. Hell, it's why my character in Shadows of the Old Worlds is a college professor of history.
I will say the scene between Yona and Rockhoof is very cute, and it's got some nice emotional dialogue between the two, but again, this scene would resonate much more if there was maybe another scene or two of Yona and him interacting with each other. She could have also been the more emotional center of the story, and would ultimately build this interesting dichotomy between the two. As the story would go, Rockhoof loses more faith in himself as Yona's resolve becomes more stronger. Thus, when she tries to convince him not to stone himself, it would have a lot more meaning. So while the scene doesn't reach its full potential, it still carries enough charm to work well enough.
And that was a Rockhoof in a hard place. Problematic does not even begin to describe the episode. The story relies on old tropes to where some of the comedy hinges on being insulting, and the mental health allegories fail in-universe because it doesn't treat the subject seriously. However, on a second watch, there were moments of realism and heart I didn't quite appreciate the first time. If it wasn't for the suicide angle, I probably would have labeled this an underrated episode and an awful season. As is, it's rightly placed in the top 5 worst episodes of Season 8.
I'm actually on the opposite end of that. I, strangely enough, like this episode. Yeah, it's a fish out of water story, but combined with interesting characters, great voice acting, nice animation, and some good visual gags, I was entertained and had a good time despite the controversial subject matter. I never really felt angry or annoyed, even the slightest, except for maybe that one line by Twilight. There are some other questionable story elements, but they never really deterred my enjoyment. So overall, it's nowhere near the best MLP has made, but still is a good episode in my opinion. Well, looks like the teleporter is all charged. You ready to finally head back home?
Definitely. I've been away from Equestria for too long. By the way, I got a gift for you.
A gift for me? Aw, thanks, dude. See, I knew you couldn't hold a grudge forever. Isn't this great? We're the best of friends again. Alright, hang on. Here we go.
Till next time, catch.
Haha, thanks. I've been needing a new clock and wait, what's Dinama Ite? Is that from Fragile?